I came across a couple of interesting facts about Tartaria I thought you guys might be interested in because there's a whole bunch of suspicion about Tartaria being Tartarus. I know there's been a lot of films and videos been made recently trying to convince us that they are part of Satan's kingdom. But I have found the opposite in my searching and my just actually both of these documents that I'm presenting here that you can take a look on the screen, I found by accident, just kind of stumbled upon. This one is a very interesting one that you're looking at right here. This is talking about the lost 10 tribes. And he is going in, and I'm just going to show you a little bit. I'll leave you a link, but he's going into all the different tribes and where they went and who they became and how they became actually Tartarians. So I'll leave the link for that one. It's a very interesting read. The next one is some CIA documents that I stumbled across a number of months ago, maybe about a year ago. And luckily, I took pictures of each and every page because I passed it along in all of my Facebook and different places. I passed it around quite a bit. These right from the CIA, they're open files. And next thing I knew, a week later, I went back to somebody had messaged me back and said the link didn't work. So I went back to the link and it said no longer available. But as you can see here, I have these are the documents that I took a picture of so you can read. And what they are is they're talking about when Russia, when they invaded the Tartarias in Crimea in the please read through it. It's really interesting how they destabilized the country by making people start to fight for different rights that they didn't even know that they wanted, like women's rights or gay rights, or they just started this whole breaking down the society. And it said that in the documents that it took them up to 40 years to do this. But by the time, it really is when they talk about separation of languages, because we've seen they've done this here in Canada and the United States, actually all over the world, where you're just separating, from somebody who's 10, somebody who's 15, somebody who's every age is being separated. Their tongues are being different. They can't understand each other. They're changing things so rapidly that there is such a distance between 20 and 30 in their thinking. And this is what they did. And they made it so when they do that, when you don't have consistency, nobody can work together and they can't fight together and they can't take care of it because everybody's just like you see right now on Facebook and all of the places. Everybody's still fighting about crazy stuff. They're still fighting about this and that. And nobody is consistently seeing really what's going on, not as a whole, so we can't unite. The enemy comes in at that time. And that's what these writings, the CIA documents, and that's the reason why they got taken off, because it showed how they systematically destroyed the country. And then when they came in, then nobody had any rights anymore, and they executed just like they did in the Second World War. Same thing. They set everybody up for fighting and bickering, and nobody will stand together, and everybody has an enemy. That kind of manipulation and brainwashing that they've done to us. And they did that to the Second World War. They did that to the Tartarians there in Russia at the same time. They did that to destabilize them, and then they can come in and they can just clean it up and change the whole society. But what was really interesting about, please read these documents, what was interesting about them was talking about how the Tartarians were this odd, strange mix between a Christian and Muslim. And but they were very peaceful and very harmony. They had a great deal of harmony to them. So there's these two different documents. Also, I'll leave you a link to somebody else's video, another channel, and he's talking about this. He's reading another book, and he actually has a great deal of references to prove and show that this was widespread. They knew the Tartarians were the lost tribes of Israel. But one of the things that I will say that he does bring out, that he believes that the Tartarians moved and went across from Russia into America, Canada, and became the native Indians of the countries. And I do believe that is true, but he believes it because Genghis Khan was the head of this, and he believes that he was of Oriental descent. And I've done quite a bit of research in Genghis Khan, and this is what I have found.
Genghis Khan was the founder of the Mongol Empire, which became the largest continuous empire in history after his death in the 13th century. He came to power by uniting many nomadic tribes and conquering most of Eurasia, which included the wholesale massacre of civilian populations. Genghis Khan is a title, which means universal ruler. He was born with the name Temujin, and according to the Persian historian Ab-ul-Ghazi, the tribal clan to which Temujin belonged were known as the Borki Khan, which means gray-eyed men. According to Mongol and Chinese legends, she was said to have been visited in her tent by a divine being who possessed golden hair, a fair complexion, and gray eyes. Shortly after this visitation, she gave birth to the first member of the Borki Khan clan. Genghis Khan himself was noted in Chinese descriptions of him for his tall stature and heavy beard. Temujin's wife was Bortai, who also bore a name which means gray-eyed. New archaeological finds in Asia are forcing a re-examination of old Chinese books that describe historical or legendary figures of great height with deep-set blue or green eyes, long noses, full beards, or red or blonde hair. Scholars have traditionally scoffed at these ancient myths, but it now appears that these accounts were actually correct. Many people are still unaware of the fact that China has massive pyramids that rival Egypt in size and age, probably because so many attempts are made to hide them. China's landscape is not only littered with enormous pyramids, but with hundreds of ancient mummies, like the 4,000-year-old Beauty of Lulan. Chinese researchers say they have found a strange pyramid-shaped chamber while surveying the massive underground tomb of China's first emperor. Remote sensing equipment has revealed what appears to be a 100-foot-high room above Emperor Qin Shi Huang's tomb, which has not yet been excavated. Qin is credited with starting construction on the Great Wall and commissioning an army of terracotta soldiers to guard his tomb. Thousands of these terracotta warriors were discovered several decades ago. A few years ago, Dr. Duan, the archaeologist in charge of excavating the first emperor's tomb, unearthed 120 skeletons of workers who were buried near the mausoleum. Among the finds were 3 skulls that were definitely not Chinese. Dr. Duan said, and I quote, "There's 3 skulls that are different from the rest of them, which represent the Mongolian type of people." DNA tests were performed, and they indicated that the individuals were from, and again I quote, "West Eurasia, probably like a white people," end quote. Professor Zhang Weixing, lead archaeologist at the tomb site, said, and I quote, "The archaeological work undertaken here recently is more important than anything in the last 40 years. By systematically examining the first emperor's main tomb and subsidiary burials, we have discovered something more important than even the terracotta army. The mitochondrial DNA samples revealed that European-like type people had settled down in China and died there during the time of the first emperor and even before them.